Hello everybody. So today we're going to talk about different types of chemical bonds that are very high yield for the MCAT and the DAT. The first type of bond we want to talk about is a covalent bond. And to break it down into a simplistic manner, you can think of covalent bonds as just nonmetals bonded to more nonmetals. And it is just a sharing of electrons. And the only thing you really need to know about covalent bonds, which sometimes can be called a molecular bond, is that they have a very low boiling point, as well as they have a very low melting point. And that's something to keep in mind. When it comes to ionic bonds, a simplistic manner of thinking of this would just be a nonmetal that's bonded to a metal, and this is not a sharing of electrons. This is actually where an atom gives up a pair of electrons, but that's beside the point. We're looking at trends in these types of bonds. So what you need to know about these bonds, let me separate this, is that they have a very high boiling point, melting point, as well as they can conduct electricity. And that is when they are in the liquid form. So that's also a very important point to keep in mind. If they are a solid form, they do not conduct electricity, and this is something where you could get tripped up on during your DAT or your MCAT. The next type of bond I want to talk about is a metallic bond, which I'm sure you can assume that it's just a metal with another metal that is electrically and thermally conductive, so E and T, conductive. And there's three basic properties that could pop up on your test about these types of bonds. First, they are ductile. All that means is that you're able to draw it into a wire. The second property is it's malleable. I'm just going to write mal. And that means you're able to pound it into sheets. And the third property of these bonds is luster. And all this means is that it is very shiny. So then there's one exception that we haven't covered, one type of bond that most people don't know about that could pop up on your test. These types of bonds are called covalent network solids. And two examples that you could run into are carbon, and think of it as in a diamond, as well as quartz. And you can think of these quartz as in this right here. So some important features of these types of bonds is that they have a very high boiling point as well as melting point. Another type of bond that you could run into during your MCAT or your DAT is called a coordinate covalent bond. And what the easiest way to think about this is Lewis, and we'll break that down into bases and acids. And it is important to note that the base is what provides electrons, and the acid does not provide any electrons. So you can think of this as the base is the ligand, and the acid per se is a metal ion. An example of this is right here, which I will draw below, where this NH3 is going to be your base, and this BF3 is going to be your acid. And the reason for this is you can see right here, this has a lone pair of electrons that are going to come over here to this boron. And that's all for the different types of bonds that are very high yield for your MCAT or your DAT. Good luck with studying.